Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Wednesday. Brian Kamenetsky here, and we are going to talk about the DAngelo Russell problem. Andy's not here, but Anthony Irwin is, and that's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. It's always free. It's never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube. You can go hang out with over 25,000 subscribers to the channel, many of whom are wondering why DAngelo Russell is still on the team, how long he is going to be on the team, and what he's going to do while he's still on the team. We are going to break all of that and more down with our friend Anthony Irwin. You know him, obviously, the host of the Lakers Lounge, columnist at LakersDaily.com, and the former occupant of this space. So we will get to that in just a second. Do want to let everybody know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as the playoffs wind down. The sports stop sportsing like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers. That's all customers with a booster or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Anthony, as someone who, I don't think it's deeply loathes DAngelo Russell, resents
entirely,
loathes him, resents his very existence. Mm-hmm. You have spent a lot of time on the Lakers Lounge, which everybody, again, go subscribe, go listen to it. I wanted to talk to Anthony about D'Lo in part based on an episode from earlier this week that he put out. And okay, maybe I'm overstating a little bit, but you are, is it fair to say you're sort of off the D'Lo train at this point and recognize that there may be a problem that the Lakers have with Russell?
Yeah. I think that, if I was to just answer in one word, which would not make me very good at this, but that's how I would sum it up.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for coming on. Locked On Lakers on YouTube.
It's a lot of that. We can't monetize because all my shows are one word long.
They're the TikTokers.
But yeah, all right. So this is actually I'm really happy that you and I are talking about this because the most recent version of my DAngelo Russell, I guess, rants is a result of a point that you and Andy have been making that I think is very fair, in that, like, everybody who is screaming to high heavens, you need to trade DAngelo Russell. Why is DAngelo Russell still on the team? Why is this? The thing that they tend to overlook is the Lakers need his regular season production. And it's objectively true. You are objectively correct in that, like, the Lakers would not have made even the play-in games last year if not for DAngelo Russell's on-court production. He had a great
from beginning to end. I think he was the third best player on the team.
I think you can make a real argument that was maybe like a top 3 DAngelo Russell season, like might be his best season.
I'm not sure we're deep enough into August to actually do like that show, like ranking D'Lo's seasons. But it was really good. It was definitely really good.
The bit should be, because everybody's screaming about whether or not Kobe is a top 10 or top 11 player all time.
Right.
What we really should be ranking is things that are like way more innocuous, like DAngelo Russell seasons of all time, Brian Cook seasons of all time.
Is D'Lo a top 330 player of all time? Is D'Lo the 320th best player ever or the 280th best player? Which, by the way, would be great. I mean, good. You got to be at basketball to be the 280th best player of all time. But yes, I mean, I think that would be a fun way to approach these ranking lists.
Am I a top 280th Lakers podcaster? Lakers,
yes.
Daily podcast. I think I am. But no. So essentially, the point that I was making on the show yesterday or a couple days ago when it launched or when I was live is the Lakers need to find a way to be less reliant on DAngelo Russell this season, so that at the deadline when they are trying to trade him, because they are going to be trying to trade him all year, they're currently still trying to trade him. Like they aren't like happy that he's still there. Like it's a super weird situation where I don't think he's thrilled to continue to be a Laker. I don't think they are over the moon about the fact that he is still a Laker. Like it was funny when we went into the offseason, when you would kind of ask around to people around the league, like, all right, D'Lo's gonna opt out, right? He has that player option. It's for like $18 million. He's gonna opt out, right? And for the most part, the consensus was, yeah, I don't know what he would necessarily get, but you have to figure he would be able to get like an additional year in that range.
Somebody offers you, even 3 and 36 or 3 and 38, something like that, where you're exchanging a little bit longer, and get that. That was what I expected to happen. Absolutely.
Part of me too. I thought so too. But then like as the summer went along and you would talk to people more and more and more, not just because of DAngelo Russell specifically, everybody, we saw what happened to Gary Trent Jr. The player option market completely dried up. Christian Wood opted into the minute he could. And that was a minimum contract. And, I was talking to agents and they were all saying that like their clients are livid that they have to be that conservative with their decision, but they had to advise their clients that you need to be that conservative with your decision. And over the course of the summer, it was like, man, I really think D'Lo's going to opt in. I think he's really going to. And the Lakers were getting that sense too. And then like the week or so leading up to it, they were very quietly canvassing the league. Like what does this trade market look like? And it got to a point when he finally did opt in. And remember, it broke like late at night one night. It was like 10 o'clock your time, like midnight my time, that he tried to sneak that in there, that he was opting in. The Lakers, I heard, called the Utah Jazz within about an hour of that tweet where it was like, he's in. Danny, let's figure something out. And then, they couldn't figure something out. So like I think the issue is that the Lakers need DAngelo Russell a hell of a lot more than the rest of the league seems to think that they need DAngelo Russell. And I think the Lakers should bring him off of the bench so that they can train themselves to not be as reliant on him, so that at the deadline, that isn't as big of an issue.
You're treating him like he's nicotine. He's got some value. It kind of perks you up. It gets you through the day, but he's bad for you. And you should stop. You should stop with your DAngelo Russell habit.
Yeah.
We'll do the second segment. We'll get into this, the issue of what to do with him. I think the idea of bringing him off the bench is both interesting and potentially wrong. But
I'll grant
this idea, again, thank you for coming. This idea, though, the problem of D'Lo, I think you're spot on, because it's not that he's bad. Like you have to, no, he's actually very good. Like he's not an all-star, but he's in that group of players that's sort of in the goo that's underneath in the with that space where like he's not an all-star, but he's like really good. Like he's a top 100-ish player in the league. He's in the top 25% of the league, which means he's better than 3 out of 4 guys you're going to find. But he's not the kind of guy that a rebuilding team would want. He's both too old and reputationally doesn't vibe as someone you want to put lots of young players around.
Yep.
And good teams, really good teams, don't want to acquire him because he is seen as somebody who is a little bit of a problem if he doesn't like his role. And even if he does like his role defensively, he's not very good. He's got certainly some limitations as a player. And then you wonder, is he going to be accepting of a smaller role coming off the bench? So he's really hard to trade.
Plus, and then the playoff thing is like you can't ignore the fact that every playoff he's ever been in, eventually he finished that playoffs being benched, every single one of them.
And I'm actually kind of cool with that. It doesn't bother me that much. It just doesn't. I'm not bothered by that. But let's talk about what why you believe, other than comparing him to cigarettes, that I'm pretty sure you did that and not me, that DAngelo Russell should be coming off the bench. We'll get to that next. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But the playoffs are like over. We haven't got to the parts where all the games begin again. And the sports, they're just not sportsing like I want them to. FanDuel, though, they let me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com. Start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Thanks for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of the day. For your second listen, how about the Locked On NBA podcast? There is no offseason in the NBA. That is why we're still doing shows in the middle of August. And Locked On NBA provides daily basketball analysis from national and local experts in 30 minutes or less. No one keeps you as informed or as entertained as Locked On NBA, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, Anthony, you are taking DAngelo Russell and you're putting him on the bench. How is this going to work? What is the philosophy behind it? What do the Lakers gain from it?
So I think the Lakers need to figure out what Austin Reaves is. And that's another starting point on this with D'Lo, is that, like, look, D'Lo isn't going to be a part of the organization here moving forward. They have made that clear.
Are we sure about that? I've been hearing that for like 4 years now.
It's true.
I mean, do we really know? Because like they could enter next offseason in exactly the same position where Russell is needed more by the Lakers than somebody else will need him because they need a point guard, and he's better than anybody else they'll have the space to go sign. Are we really sure that we're done with DAngelo Russell?
I hope so. Like, for everybody's case, like we all just gotta move on. Like, he needs to move on. He needs to go back to Brooklyn, or he needs to go back to Minnesota or Golden State and just keep kind of jumping from place to place in the league and then landing on the same landing spot over and over again. Mm-hmm. But like, I the Austin thing is difficult because he isn't athletic enough to be a shooting guard. He did, like, defensively, he is going to keep on running into issues there with bigger players. He doesn't necessarily have the handle, though, to get by guys the way that you would like your point guard to be able to. So he's in that kind of tweener mold. But he is, I think, very well equipped to be a LeBron James point guard. The guy who operates off of the ball, does occasionally run pick and roll with LeBron. Like that Steph LeBron inverted pick and roll that they were running at the Olympics. If I was an opposing coach, I would say that's a war crime. That's just, there's so little that you could do with that. And I think Austin isn't clearly Steph Curry as a shooter or whatever like that, but like the Lakers run that occasionally too, and it works really well. Like I think the Lakers need to just kind of throw Austin into the deep end as the point guard at the start of the year, and you can't do that when DAngelo Russell is on the court. Now, if D'Lo is willing to operate more off of the ball, something he hasn't been willing to do, and if he's willing to be better as a catch and shooting threat than he has been over the course of his career, cool, fantastic. Then he's your shooting guard. You still have defensive issues, but at least we find out that Austin can be the point guard. And I think that is where this comes into it too. And then the other thing too is you look at the other players that are going to be starting. And like this was a very funny retort to my thinking that D'Lo should come off the bench. Is like, they don't have enough offense. You have Austin Reaves, you have LeBron James, you have Anthony Davis, you have potentially Rui Hachimura out there also. How much more offense do you actually need? Like, if I was to list those players, the thing that I don't think I need more of is
and their spacing, and you have the ability to, you have guys who can space the floor for LeBron. You can make space for Anthony Davis. You have some shooting out there. You could theoretically drop Gabe Vincent or, Max Christie or something like that in there without the bottom falling out offensively, you would think.
Yeah, I would hope. those names that I listed are pretty good offensively. So, but then you look at the bench though, and like Jared Vanderbilt is going to be coming off of the bench. Gabe Vincent could potentially be coming off of the bench. Max Christie is going to be coming off of the bench. There isn't much creativity coming off of the bench. That seems like the perfect DAngelo Russell spot. You just hand him the keys. You say, when our primary creators are off of the court, you are in charge of the bench units, and you get to take advantage of lesser units as a bench player. And like the final thing too is the thing that the Lakers need to figure out with D'Lo is, are you actually in? Like if we are actually going to continue this super weird, super awkward relationship,
Just charade.
If you're actually in, though, are you willing to sacrifice for the betterment of the team? Because I do think this makes the Lakers better. And if D'Lo is like, well, I don't like playing off of the ball, and I don't like coming off of the bench, and I don't like doing this, and I don't like doing that. That's why the Lakers are like, cool, go be a Washington Wizard then, buddy. Like we are done here. If you have this giant list of things that you are telling us you are not willing to do for a team that is trying to win a championship this year.
I will say this. There is no reason DAngelo Russell should buy into anything the Lakers say. Okay, if you want to show that you're all in, because like they've been trying to trade him for 2 years. I mean, like why, if I'm D'Lo, should I believe that my being all in is going to result in some sort of me getting another contract or getting to stay? Because we all know it's not. Like
if anything, it probably makes it more likely he gets traded, right? Because like, that kind of sacrifice is what teams have been waiting for him to do. And they're like, okay, you're interested? Cool. Like, we'll trade for you now.
And I'm not even sure how much it impacts his trade value. I do like that you basically you have Rob Pelinka going over to the shelf to the Russell Westbrook pitch. Russ, you're going to come off the bench. You're going to have free reign in the second unit. You hear the keys, man, and jingle it. I'm jingling the keys for you, Russ. And you go, and you're just repeating that, just subbing out Russell for Westbrook, ironically.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't know if here's where I love this idea of being able to sort of diminish D'Lo's role for the betterment of the team, because eventually you're going to try to reach a space where you won't have him.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple problems with it that at least we can keep talking about. Like we can just talk about D'Lo the whole time, because he's a concept as much as he is a person at this point. I don't know if you can plan a future this season where he's not part of it, because you can't trade him for pennies because you make your team worse. You have to trade him for things that at the very least don't make you worse. Ideally, you trade him for something that makes you better. My point has never been that you can't improve on DAngelo Russell. You obviously can, but you have to be able to. And I don't know if it's the same. The trade didn't happen in the offseason. It didn't happen going into the season. Last offseason, it didn't happen going into this season. It didn't happen. It doesn't look like it's going to happen going into training camp. I'm not sure it's going to happen at the deadline again this year. I think there are just as strong of odds that you end up with D'Lo on the team after the trade deadline this year, as there are.
Could you imagine?
I can imagine. Yes, absolutely can. I mean, yes, yeah. I mean, it's like I was like, trades are hard in the NBA, and the mechanics of them are hard, and like the new economics make it harder, and the fact that you have teams, now 10 deep, in each conference trying to maybe we can sneak into the playoffs, get around here and excite our fans a little bit. Like all of this becomes really complicated. And what you really need to be able to do is make DAngelo Russell your fifth best player, not necessarily in terms of how you use him, but in reality, and that's the hard part for the Lakers, is finding it. Like, you can get one of those spots if Austin Reaves leapfrogs him. Mm-hmm. You can, but I don't know. I mean, asking Christie to leapfrog him seems like a tall order for his first year of real playing.
Without D'Lo taking a tangible step back is the thing.
And Max Christie making a gigantic leap forward. Yeah. Because again, D'Lo's pretty good. I mean, can Rui, apples and oranges, they play different positions, but can Rui make that jump? Maybe
it's more realistic than Max, yeah,
much more. But you got to knock him down to where he's your fourth, fifth, sixth best player on a nightly basis, and then that impact that you're talking about doesn't doesn't matter as much. And so where I get concerned is, unless you fill that space, you're taking one of your 3 or 4 best players and de-emphasizing them and sort of making them 80% of what they could be, with and that hurts your team. Like Lakers just don't have the margins to be able to do that. So I want to get your feeling about how good you think guys like Rui and Reaves and Christie can get over the course of this season. Like, where else internal improvement can come? And then what do you think it looks like with D'Lo coming off the bench? We'll do that next. Here's the one thing I think I do like about this. I mean, in a perfect world, you don't necessarily. Well, in a perfect world, you can figure out ways to accommodate D'Lo's defense to close games, and they did it last year. It's not like he never closed games last year, but it becomes obviously harder in the playoffs. I do like a setup where you aren't, where your normal pattern would say that Russell isn't on the floor at the end of games. I will say again, in his defense, they closed plenty of games last year without him on the floor, and he didn't seem off-put by it. He's generally up and cheering and all that. There were some moments, but like generally speaking, it was cheering when good things happened and whatever. But I do like that aspect of the plan. Like, do you think they can get enough out of Russell to stay competitive? As competitive as they need to be? And I guess what I'm saying, how much of a sacrifice do you think you're making by sort of weaning yourself off of Russell over the course of the season?
It's like that Sunday in Vegas, right? That Sunday in Vegas where you have to get on a flight, but you still could use like a little beverage to kind of knock the cobwebs off.
Mm-hmm.
You got to hydrate though while you do it, because you can't be a mess when you land in LAX. But no, I think, a lot of this is riding on Max Christie. You can maybe argue all of it is riding on Max Christie, and I guess Gabe Vincent to a lesser extent. Gabe's kind of tougher because you want Austin to be the point guard, and if you basically just go from D'Lo starting to Gabe starting, that means that Austin is still kind of plateaued in that. Well, he sure is good, but he's not quite like the kind of the Lakers need him to be.
Skeptical. I was Rui skeptical going into last year. It's like, I need to see it. I need to see the playoff Rui, the thing that he did last year, can sustain itself through a season. I think he did a pretty good job of that once his role was sort of ironed out, which is a whole other issue. And, coaching, I think, can make a huge impact on all of these things that we're talking about this year. But Rui, I was like, okay, now Rui looks like a $17 million player. I am still very Gabe Vincent skeptical because I don't think he's ever really been a consistent shooter. He's never been relied on to do the things. And, I think over 82 games, the Lakers theoretically might be asking him, but I'm not saying it can't happen. I just need to see it.
Yeah. It's tough when I keep getting told he's this great point of attack defender, and he's noticeably shorter than everybody else on the court. Like, that's just so difficult. You could, Schroeder could sometimes make that work, but he was so long and so fast that you could see him just being enough of, and he also had that really annoying personality that I think you need to be a great point of attack defender. I don't think Gabe has that personality. But it needs to be Max. And the other point too, while you were talking about D'Lo, sometimes being happy, sometimes not being happy coming off the bench, it's a weird balance that you need to strike where I don't want my guys to be super happy to be benched. I don't want them, I want him to want to compete.
No, to be clear, he hated when he wasn't starting. He didn't like that at all. He made that pretty, that part was made pretty clear. I just mean when he didn't finish games.
Yeah.
I never got the vibe that this was a problem internally more than any of the other sort of waves arms about D'Lo
stuff.
Aura. Right.
Yeah.
That wasn't a massive factor compared to the 9,000 other things that I know the organization doesn't exactly love about the guy.
Yeah. He needs a filter. I think he's a really smart, bright guy.
Smart.
who just has zero filter whatsoever. And I say this as somebody who probably could use more of a filter myself. Like, to be clear, like I totally understand it, but like it's just the things that you hear about it. It's just like there's so many times in the locker room he'll say something and everybody's like, not now, no, like just chill. But so I think and again, all of this also comes down to like Austin. If Austin is capable as a LeBron point guard, then you can deal with having
that again because they used D'Lo like a point guard, and they had Reaves trying to do point guardy stuff last year more when LeBron wasn't on the floor. But I think like Austin is a great chaos passer. He is not a great organizing point guard. Like, I don't think he's a very good point guard. He's not. I don't consider him a point guard. He's an excellent passer, but that's different. So when you say a LeBron point guard, what are you talking about?
Caruso, essentially. Like Caruso was, I think even now is the highest net rating teammate that LeBron has ever had, when like LeBron's impact on a game got better every time Caruso stepped onto the court. And Caruso isn't a great facilitator. I don't know if he can dribble with his left hand all that well. Was a reluctant shooter for especially early in that season, developed shooting a little bit as the season went on, but absolutely got after it. And incredible, for my money, the best perimeter defender in the NBA. And he was then with the Lakers, and just didn't seem to get that amount of respect for it.
That good. The guy wasn't apparently worth a first round pick. How good could he be?
It's man, that trade made me so angry. But yeah, I think like how does Joe Cronin call Pelinka up and be like, we need 2 firsts for Jeremy Grant, and then that trade with Caruso goes down. He's like, don't pay any attention whatsoever to that return.
Right. The Bulls are in their own category. They ruin things for everyone.
So I was sitting there and I was with watching Caruso succeed with LeBron that way. It's like Austin he's not going to be that kind of defender, but he is going to be better on the ball than Caruso was. He's a significantly better shooter than Caruso ever was.
They never had AC organize the offense. He never did it.
Right. Well, and that's what I'm like, and if
essentially
out there,
a LeBron point guard, you mean somebody who doesn't handle the ball.
Yeah.
He's on the floor,
in this case,
but not handling the ball.
Like I think in this case you can have Austin. He can get the ball to half court and then get the ball to LeBron, or he can basically like figure out with LeBron, all right, who's setting the screen? Because I just think so much good stuff comes off of Austin LeBron sets, whether it's Austin setting a screen for LeBron or LeBron setting a screen for Austin. No matter what combination or how that combination plays out, if that's the starting point of a set, good things are typically going to happen. And what the Lakers need to, figure out is how to, because they were relying on it a lot more late in games. They weren't doing it as much over the course of the game. And they need to figure out like whether it's, Austin AD stuff, whatever it is, but they need to make Austin more impactful on the ball than he was last year. Otherwise, this whole D'Lo off the bench thing is just, it can't happen.
The part that I'm still skeptical about is I do think the Lakers, especially even with that starting lineup, suffered from not having a third passer available to them. And again, Vincent he is a point guard. I mean, he's not Chris Paul, but he's a point guard. The guy knows how to pass the ball. But I think you need to find somebody who can do that. Like Christie is, I think, a decent enough, he will make the next connecting pass. He will do all that stuff. The guy I actually think could fit in nicely with a lot of motion, who I was impressed by over the summer in terms of being able to come off a screen and make the read and make the pass, was Connect. But then if you put Connect in the lineup, you are, you get the spacing back, you get some offense back, certainly an aggressive offensive player, but you're not really helping your defense. You're putting a very shaky guy out on the wing
Yeah.
next to a 40-year-old LeBron. And, like, we all want to be witness to the ability of Anthony Davis to carry a defense. But I mean, good God, man, that's just me.
I think he would go on strike.
Yeah,
I think he would just like this. I
I'm not
can't do
even
this,
doing
you guys.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it.
I just went from over the summer having Kevin Durant on the wing over there playing his ass off defensively. LeBron was actually trying every possession in the
Bam
Olympics.
Adebayo behind next to me.
Bam was
like,
there.
oh.
Booker was bought into this stuff, and now it's like you want me to carry Austin and connect, huh?
Yeah,
like
and LeBron. Let's be honest, and LeBron through the regular season.
And Rui in some cases.
Rui, right? Who's also not very good at this.
Wander away from his guy all the time. He's just like stand. You'd have been better off falling asleep on your feet than what you actually did on that possession, Rui. I just, but still, again, like what the Lakers need to figure out is, like, what kind of season do they actually want to have, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they're content with just ride this out, ride out the LeBron era, ride out the Anthony Davis era, and sell the tickets that you get to sell while you have LeBron and AD on your team, and sell the merch that you get to sell while you have those guys on the team, and be kind of like a fringe playoff contender for the last few years here. Fine. Like if that's what they want to do, okay. They don't want to say that publicly, but like their actions would indicate that they seem to be a little, kind of okay with that. And if that's how this is going to play out, then keep starting D'Lo, because there is nobody better equipped to be a fringe playoff team than a DAngelo Russell basketball team. But if you're really interested in like competing for a championship, if you're really interested in like trying to maximize the final 2 years while LeBron somehow is still a top 10 to 15 player in the NBA entering his age 40 season, and Anthony Davis is still in his prime, then you need to figure out a way to see what you have and see what you can get for DAngelo Russell's expiring contract. And
they've seen what they can get. The answer is not apparently anything. That's the problem.
Well, it's
not that they're not trying to trade him, it's that they can't.
Well, it's that the issue is that it takes too much to get any kind of an upgrade, and they aren't comfortable with that price. I actually think what the Lakers should probably do is just trade one of their firsts in a separate deal, and then go to Joe and be like, look, man, we don't have another first to offer. Like essentially the problem that they're running into these negotiations across the league is that they have two picks,
still have that pick,
and everybody wants both of those picks. But if you trade one pick, you now have to if anybody wants everything from you, everything is now one pick. They just need to split up those
very clever idea.
Transactions.
Can you in yes or no answer is because David Locke come yell at us. Is DAngelo Russell a starting point guard on October whatever it is when the Lakers open against Minnesota?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately. That was that last little bit where you were talking about, like, if you want to have just a fringy playoff team that kind of sucks and disappoints everyone, then DAngelo Russell is your guy. I like him. I think he's fine. I'm just telling you. Aside from that, he's fine.
That was how David used to talk about me while I hosted the show. He's like, if you want to just
Lakers pro show, this is going to kind of get by. And Anthony Irwin is your guy. Well, he is now the host of the Lakers Lounge, which you should be subscribing to. And you can ask him questions, and he's very responsive, and he does shows all the time, and he goes live at weird hours because like people just say, hey, can you do a show now? And he'll say, sure. You can do that. You can go to LakersDaily.com and you can read all of his stuff. I do want to let you thank you again for making Locked On Lakers your first listen today. Go check out on the Locked On NBA podcast, with a season that never ends, providing national expertise with local perspective. You can find the link to Locked On NBA in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks again to Anthony Irwin. Go subscribe to all of his things. We will be back tomorrow. See everyone. Have a good night.